The last time I was discussing Kanye, he was talking about buying back his masters from Universal Music Group. That age-old crazy tale of artists get signed to a major label puts loads of money in, artist becomes one of the biggest artists in the entire world, and then artist becomes very grumpy and says, "You've been ripping me off and I want my art back. I want my masters back." Oh, and we laughed and we said, look, Michael Jackson and Prince, some of the biggest artists that have ever lived, had no chance. They tried and they failed to buy their masters back. How on earth is Kanye going to do that? Well, hold the phone, because he has decided that is not the answer. On Joe Rogan's podcast this week, he said,
"I was thinking about buying my masters and I realized that that was too small of a thought. I'm going to buy Universal."
He's decided, as he can't buy his masters back, he's just going to buy the entire company, the largest record label in the entire world. I mean, all right, Kanye, brilliant. What else are you going to do? Run for president? What? Really? Okay, so this might be a crazy, harebrained scheme, but who's ready for a maths lesson? Or, if you're American, a math lesson. Now, Universal Music Group is the largest record label. It's the largest conglomerate in music industry in the world that has ever been. This is the biggest powerhouse in the world. It is home to the back catalogs of Queen, U2, the Rolling Stones, Bob Marley, Frank Sinatra, who else? Drake, Elton John, and my old band. But whilst UMG is the largest label in the entire world, not so long back, it sold 10% of its shares for $3.3 billion, which, by mathematics, means the company is worth roughly around about $35 billion. Now that is a lot of cash. But Kanye is not short of a bob or two. In fact, last year he made $150 million from his music. In fact, he is the highest earning hip hop artist in the world. And to put that into perspective, if you take number 2 and number 3, which is Jay-Z and Drake, even if you combined what they earned, it isn't as much as what Kanye earned in 2019 from his music alone. But this is the thing, the money that Kanye earns from his music is basically pocket money compared to his potential earnings outside of music. Kanye is reportedly worth between $4 and $5 billion, and he has his fingers in many pies. He also owns $80 million worth of real estate, $20 million worth of land, $4 million worth of vehicles and cars, and $300,000 worth of livestock, and that is a lot of cows. But then there's his business deals. His deal with Adidas was reportedly worth $1.5 billion, and he's got 15% of the royalties on anything that's sold. Now, to put that into perspective, Michael Jordan, when he did his deal with Nike for Air Jordans, he got a royalty of 5%. So Kanye's getting 15% royalty on everything that's sold. So mathematically, I get it. Kanye can't dip his hand in his pocket, even though he's worth a couple of billion, and buy out UMG. But we also know that Kanye has some very influential, very rich friends. For example, Mr. Elon Musk. Elon Musk, we are all aware, is not short of a bob or two. And we also know that he loves some harebrained schemes. Here is someone who is a natural-born disruptor, and he likes doing crazy stuff like sending people off into space. So when you start putting these people together, you build a consortium of very rich, very powerful, very influential, and very disruptive people that could potentially club together in order to buy out UMG. So what is it that Kanye wants? He wants control. He doesn't just want his masters back. He doesn't want the money. The money is not the important thing. What he wants is, he wants control at board level. He wants to be a powerhouse. He wants the legacy. He has already said that musicians are slaves. His words, musicians are slaves, and I want to be the one that frees them, because this has been a long time coming and the entire music industry needs to be innovated. It needs to be disrupted and innovated, and he believes that he is the best leader to take on that job. Now, what you're suggesting breaks everything. The deals that have been done with Spotify and all of the other DSPs, in fact, all of the deals that have been done, everything has to change. The rule book has been ripped up and started again, and the infrastructure has completely collapsed. Because the way a huge label like Universal works is it's a library, a back catalogue of decades of artists. It's invested in some of the biggest artists that have ever been. Can you imagine owning the Rolling Stones catalogue? And that's just one of thousands of back catalogues. If you give these back and you say, you know what, you have that, you have that, you have that, you have that, what has Universal got? All of a sudden, it's got no shares. Nobody's going to invest in that company. In fact, it becomes a completely unviable, non-financial business. But what if this is not about a financial decision? What if this is more about a higher purpose? We all know that the UMG shareholders will sell. They've already sold 10%, and there's another option to buy into another 10%. We know that everyone in there is purely financially driven. I put my money in, I want more money out. So therefore, they can be bought. There is a price that they will sell their shares, so therefore there is absolutely a way that Kanye can get his hands on the keys to the kingdom. And with Kanye's ability and drive and status and power, he's right when he says he is one of the greatest ever product producers that has ever walked the earth. We've seen that. He's made $5 billion. In fact, he's pretty much made most of that within the last 5 or 6 years. This is a guy that has just learned the game. And now there's no reason to believe that he won't be worth $100 billion within the next 10 years. So this becomes legacy. So let me ask you a question. If I gave you $1 million, what would you do? You'd probably say, well, I'm going to buy a nice house, I'll probably buy a cool car, and then I'll put some money away so I can leave my job. That would make complete sense. But then if I gave you $100 million, you'd say, oh, maybe instead of a house, maybe I'd have an island, and maybe I'd have a private jet or a helicopter, because I'd have a yacht, because those things I can buy with $100 million. But now think about this. If I gave you $10 billion, what would you do? All of a sudden, the house, the jet, that doesn't matter. You can just buy those. There's nothing on earth that you can't not buy. You can afford anything. So now is a different question. What crazy shit can I do with my money? Because I don't need to own stuff, because I'm never going to need money. I can just I can buy a Ferrari for the day and just park it on WL lines and walk off. Who cares? I've got that much money. So this is where Kanye's at. He's gone, now this is not about money. This is about doing something that cements legacy. This puts me in godlike status. This is something that I can do because this is a fun, crazy thing to do. I can disrupt, I can innovate, and I can lead. And those are the three things that he loves to do: to disrupt, to innovate, and to lead. If he puts a consortium together and buys UMG, it doesn't just disrupt UMG and Spotify. It disrupts the big three. In fact, it disrupts the entire music industry. And from that point, he gets to rebuild himself as the leader, as the savior of musicians, as the savior of the music industry. This is a mad thought, but Kanye didn't say, maybe I'll buy UMG. He said, I am going to buy UMG. He has his sights set on doing something bigger than money. He is looking to do something that cements his legacy, and he is playing a different game to you and I. And he has got the money to make things happen. And there's one thing that we know about Kanye is he might be a bit nuts, but he's a genius. And on top of that, he is a winner and he makes things happen. So my bet is that there's a good chance that he could make this work, because people will be looking at this saying, hey, I can get a really big payoff. And Kanye can say, I can make that payoff, and the long-term legacy of me going on to make 100 billion or 1 trillion is cemented by my legacy of making this happen. And one thing's for sure is someone who believes they are of godlike status is a very dangerous person, especially to the likes of UMG. So guys, this is the interesting thing. In 1 year's time, we will look back at this and we might laugh or we might say, he did it. But right now, I want to know in your comments, what is going to happen? You get to predict the future so that we can all look back. Maybe I'll do another video in a year's time and say, hey, remember when I said Kanye was going to take over the music industry and this actually happened? Well, I'm going to be reading some of these comments. So I want to know, in your best prediction of the future, why can't Kanye buy the biggest label, the biggest powerhouse? Why can't he be the savior for musicians? We need this right now. Venues are all over the place. We don't get to keep our masters. We can't make any money. Times are rubbish being a musician. So we need a savior, and why can't it be Kanye West? Why can't he come along and be the savior of musicians and the music industry? I want to know your thoughts in the comment below, and it can be as fun as you want. I want to hear your thoughts. But more importantly, if you can do me a favor, you hit the like for this video because it does help the YouTube algorithm, and more importantly, come and be a part of this community. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because we're doing this all the time. And right now, us musicians, we need as much community as we can get. We need as much help. And hopefully, when things will get better, we'll have come out of this in a much stronger time. And more importantly, if you want to work with me on a more one-to-one basis, then don't forget you can hit DK Music Business Academy link, which is in the description. That's a chance to work with me more on a one-to-one basis, where we do live sessions twice a week. There's a community of like-minded musicians, and I'm putting courses in every single week. There's a new one going in this week. So check that out. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.